In this video, I'm going to teach you everything that there is to know about cold email outreach in 2025. You're going to not only learn the A to Z blueprint of exact steps that you need to be doing, but you're also going to learn the thesis behind everything so that you're not just blindly following my instructions, but you actually know why you're doing everything that you're doing. So this is the same exact cold email system that has generated over 150 verified high-ticket paying clients in 2024 for our partners. We also helped our client Liaison Studios secure a multi-six-figure contract with BMW, all from a single cold email. We helped generate 24K in the first 6 weeks of running cold email for our real estate client, and created many other sales opportunities with companies like Jaguar Land Rover, Jets.com, Academy Awards, Formula One, and many, many others. So huge companies, and a bunch of other accomplishments as well. So this video will go over exactly the outreach thesis, the cold email blueprint, the difference between manual and automated cold emails, if that's something that you're thinking about, reverse engineering outreach results, best performing templates of emails, most common databases and data sources, and also frequent questions they may have after going through all of that. Right. So the goal is for that once you watch this whole entire video for you to know exactly what you need to do and why you're doing it as well. So who is this for? If you're watching this, you should be some sort of founder, owner, sales manager, marketing manager, or growth manager at some sort of B2B company, right? You should be taking care of new business development, and basically your job is to get more leads, more clients, and more people into your company. Now, truth is, there's a lot of different options nowadays that you can be taking and different routes to get more people on board with your company. There's paid ads, LinkedIn outreach, LinkedIn, social media, SEO, and literally hundreds of other ways of getting new clients. So the point of this video is not only to explain why cold emails is one of, if not the best option for you, but also give you the exact blueprint to make it a reality, right? So that you're not just left in the dark and you're like, cold email outreach might work, but how do I do it, right? So you'll get both kind of ends in this video. So first things first, who am I? Just so you can kind of know who I am and kind of who you're listening to and learning from. So my name is Alex Makowski. I live in New Jersey, United States. I'm the founder of Infinite Bookings, which is a cold email lead generation agency. Currently, I'm 19 years old, about 3 years into my online marketing career. When I was 19, I was working at a local bike shop as a salesperson and technician, basically getting paid minimum wage. If not, honestly, at this point, under minimum wage. I was trying to trade crypto, NFTs, all the usual stuff, flipping bikes, drop shipping. But I eventually came across starting a marketing agency on YouTube, right? The whole make money online idea. So being the young kid I was, I started a paid ads agency with no experience called Cosmo Marketing. And all throughout 9th and 10th grade, throughout of high school, I was working on growing it. I was doing everything, literally everything that you could think of incorrectly, simply because I had no experience, right? I didn't know better, and I didn't really have anyone to learn from or anyone to look up to. And the biggest challenge that I had was with getting new clients. So I would reach out to 5 huge companies, right? This was like my outreach strategy. Obviously it didn't work, right? Because that's not the right way of doing outreach. But eventually I pivoted that and started an NFT marketing agency. This was the first semi-successful agency that I had. It wasn't entirely successful, but we did have a decent amount of clients, right? And we were able to, have that fulfillment cycle and stuff like that. And my responsibility was lead gen. That was my one and only job where my goal was to get as many clients. And I was okay with it. It was a little different, obviously, for NFTs than for normal B2B companies. But after I left kind of the NFT market, and obviously it is volatile, so I didn't really want to rely on that. I left the NFT market and I realized a big problem of huge companies and even smaller companies that are, few employees just starting out was getting clients. It's a big deal, right? And without clients, you can't have a true successful business. So since I was all right at it with the NFT agency, I started Infinite Bookings, which is the company I still run today. Since then, we've helped over 100 companies with their cold email systems, with their lead generation in general, scheduled thousands of sales calls, and we love every second of doing it. So that's just a quick 2 minutes on me, just so you kind of are more familiar with me. Here are some campaign results that you can expect to see. These are pretty benchmark numbers that you can expect, just not to give you some crazy expectation and then you run your own campaigns and you're like, what's going on here? These are realistic expectations of results that you can get. So contacting 3,200 leads or 3,288 leads, you would get 62 positive responses, 53 unique responses, and then unique positive responses. So this is something that isn't out of the world, right? This was for a software company or in the software industry, and they were promoting, it was like basically an influencer marketplace for music promoters and e-commerce brands, right? So you can kind of imagine what type of platform and what type of company it would be. So this comes down to one interested lead generated for every 62 leads contacted. After that, number 2, 1,227 leads contacted, 32 unique positive responses at a 2.5% reply rate, and then 15 unique positive responses at a 46% reply rate. This was for an e-commerce brand, so a very, very generic offer where we're offering ad creatives and paid ads to e-commerce brands, right? Especially health and wellness, at least for this campaign, which is why the actual size of the campaign was a little smaller. But that came out to be around one interested lead generated for every 81 leads contacted. Number 3 is 927 leads contacted, 98 unique positive responses for a 10% reply rate. So you can see how this can kind of vary from industry to industry. And 22 of those were positive, so a 22% reply rate. And this was for clinical diagnostics in that industry. So we were basically, on behalf of our client, helping rehabilitation facilities with efficient and affordable blood, urine, and genetic testing. Right, so we were reaching out and offering that as a service. And that came out to be one interested lead generated for every 42 leads contacted. And then lastly, just so you guys can kind of expect or know what to expect, 1,872 leads contacted, 149 unique replied leads. So that's about an 8% reply rate. And then a 52 positive responses, which is a 35% reply rate. And this was targeting high-level entrepreneurs, so it was a very broad campaign, and we were just offering them video editing and podcast consulting. That's the type of offer, and this came out to be one interested lead generated for every 36 leads contacted. Those are some campaign results. And to simplify our thesis, cold email outreach in one simple sentence, we want to be able to do the same email that would take you 10 minutes to research, personalize, and write to a lead. We want to do that automatically for thousands of leads at scale every day. So when a lot of people start thinking about doing cold email, they go to one of two extremes. They either go to the extreme of sending the most possible emails with a very boring and generic message, right? But that's just spamming. We all know that. So they go to that extreme, or they go to the other extreme, which is, okay, I'm just going to do the exact opposite, and I'm going to send like 5 to 10 hyper relevant, hyper personalized, and researched emails every day. But that's also not the best way of doing it. The best way of doing it is to combine both of those aspects, right? The best part of both, and put them into one single strategy that has both the best of both worlds. So cold email at its base is just a game of getting a relevant offer in front of a relevant person at a relevant company at a relevant time. That's really it, right? That's all you need for someone to become interested and buy your service eventually. And taking the best of both worlds, where you have the high volume and high personalization all in one strategy, is really what's going to make it most efficient. So this is not to say that, like I said, we do send a large volume of emails and sometimes we don't personalize them, but we do it in a way that's proven, because we know that the offer can shine on its own. Really, the whole goal is to let the offer shine. And if you need AI personalization to enhance that and make it more relevant, that's where you can include that type of like high relevance stuff. That's our theory when it comes to cold email outreach. Now, I want to go through the difference between manually sending outreach and then automatic, right? Because a lot of people debate on this, and I think that this is a very important place to start, because manually sending cold emails is not a sustainable and scalable client acquisition strategy. It's a recipe for an empty pipeline, and it's a cry for help. The moment you start sending emails manually, right, to people, you know for a fact that you're not in the best position. And if you were able to send 100 times, 1,000 times that amount, but just automatically, you would be much better off. So let's take a look at the pros and cons, just so that it's very flat out, because automatic outreach does have a few cons, or one to be specific. So manual outreach, no hard costs, right, except for data, highly personalized and relevant outreach, right? So you can really like tailor it to very specific things. So if you saw them at an event, if you saw them, attended a webinar, stuff like that, you can include all those things very, very easily because it's already in your head. You can check their LinkedIn profile, Facebook profile, Instagram profile. You can see where they went on vacation, right? All these different things. With cons, it's low volume, it's hard to scale, and it's a very high time investment. You most likely are going to be doing it yourself, right? If you hire someone to do it, that's another extra cost that you have of a whole full-time person doing manual outreach. That's why I don't recommend doing manual outreach. I recommend doing automated outreach, where you have low costs for setup and for infrastructure. It's extremely scalable once you find a good message market fit. you have a low time investment, because once you put in that like initial burst of energy to get the system up and running, to refine the messaging, to do all that, it is a very low time investment, and it basically runs on autopilot. And then it has super high volume capabilities, right? For some clients, we're sending north of 400,000 emails per month, right? They're on custom plans. They send 400K emails a month. You can just imagine how many leads they're getting a month. Then lower personalization, right? Obviously, like you'll probably have around 80% if you try to personalize with Clay and stuff like that, which is an automation, like a personalization and automation platform. You will have lower personalization. There's no way around it, right? But it'll be around 80% if you put in good effort. 80% of like how much you would be able to personalize if you're doing it manually. So honestly, I wouldn't even consider this a con, because you could still get pretty good personalization. It's just a little bit lower, like 20% lower than the manual outreach. So another way to just think about it is like, who do you realistically think is going to sign more clients? The guy who sends 100,000 automated emails, right, that are somewhat personalized, but they're not 100% like manually written personalized, or the guy who sends 2,000 manual emails, right? Who do you think is going to sign more clients? And also, who do you think it's going to take more time? Because I know for a fact, I've never even sent 2,000 manual emails, right? That would take ages. I don't have time for that, right? And most likely speaking, you don't either. You have operations, you have fulfillment, you have sales calls to take, right? So manual outreach, it's a high time investment. You can't send nearly as many emails. You can't get in front of all the people that you really want to get in touch with. And I mean, it's just a no-brainer. Just take a look at the graph and it makes sense. That's what I would recommend. Now, talking about our automated cold outreach system and how we run it for clients and how we see the best results, we take a look at the cold outreach system as a linked chain. So you guys all know the analogy where it's like the system is only as strong as its weakest link. So basically, it all falls down to the level of the weakest link. So there's 4 parts, and let's say this 4th part is very, very low or non-existent even. You're not going to get any results, right? It all has to be as optimized as possible for you to see any type of revenue come from the system. So that's why like a lot of people focus too much on one. So they'll like spend thousands of dollars or like a lot of time building lead lists or writing the perfect email scripts, but they'll neglect other parts. So the 4 parts are email infrastructure, lead lists, email scripts, and lead management. Now, to go through just like one sentence through each, like what is email infrastructure is how are you able to send thousands of emails every single day, every single month without going into spam, right? And without having to manually sit there, right, and do it. So that's email infrastructure. Email lead lists or contact lists is if you're sending that many emails, you need to have relevant decision makers to send them to. So that's why this one is also very important. Email scripts. So obviously, if you're reaching out to a lot of people and they're relevant, you need to say something compelling, right? You need to give them a compelling message and easy to say yes. You make it easy to say yes, and then you get them on the call. And then lead management is the conversion mechanism between an interested response from someone into an actual booked call and to get them to show up to the call, right? So that's lead management. So there's 4 parts to get someone onto a call. Every factor of the campaign needs to be optimized for it to bring in new revenue consistently. If I have the best infrastructure in the world, if I have the best lead list in the world, I paid 100K for a lead list, I got the best copywriters to make my email scripts, right? Everything is maxed out, but I'm not responding to the leads quickly or at all, or I'm not calling people after they respond, or I'm not making sure and following up with them, it's not going to work, right? You're not squeezing all of the juice out of the lemon, right? You need to be squeezing as much of the leads as you got from these first 3 parts with this 4th part. All right, so I want to make sure you guys understand that, but I'm going to briefly run you through all 4 of these steps so you fully understand how you do it. And this is a part of that blueprint that you can take action on here. So these are the complete action steps that you need to take. All right, so with email infrastructure, the overview is volume should never be your limiting factor, right? So let's say you have 100 email accounts, you can send 2,500 emails a day, 50,000 emails per month. Really, if you want to be able to send that much with 95 to 100% deliverability, so like near perfect deliverability, you're going to need a whole month of warm up and scale up before full volume is possible, right? So there's a 2-week warm up period. And what warm up emails are is basically the emails themselves. They send artificial cold emails or warm up emails to each other in order for when you actually start sending cold emails, they can go directly into the primary inbox. So the goal is to warm them up, make sure that Google, Microsoft, all the email service providers know that, okay, this is a legit email account. And then once you start sending cold emails to real leads, they don't go into spam, right? So pretty simple, 2-week scale up period. So you're basically going from 5 cold emails per day per account all the way to 25 cold emails per day per account. And then once you're at that rate, 1 month, it has basically gone by, but the next month you're able to send all 50,000 emails, considering you have 100 email accounts. The way that this is structured, let's say example.com is your real domain. All right, so like your website is there, everything is there. What you want is for these yellow secondary domains to forward into example.com. And off of each secondary domain, you're able to build 2 email accounts off of them, which is great because each email account can send 25 emails per day per account. So the only way that you're going to send more emails, let's say you want to take this from 2,500 and double it to 5,000 emails per day, you're not going to just increase the volume from 25 emails per day per account to 50. You're going to buy more infrastructure because that's what's going to make this infrastructure last long and also never go to spam. Like it's almost guaranteed that you're never going to go to spam unless there's a major update with this type of system. So let's say you want to take it from 2,500 emails per day to 5,000. You're not just going to stay at 100 email accounts. You're going to buy an extra 100 email accounts, just so that's clear. Next is the technology stack. So we've used almost every major email service provider, sequencer, basically every component of the system, right? And without being biased towards any of them, this is our current tech stack. Now, this says November 2024, but it hasn't changed since then. So the email sequencer is Email Bison. Email Bison is different than like Smartlead or Instantly, where this is a private email sequencer where you have a private server and it's rotated every 2 to 3 months, meaning you will, like before, like we were using Smartlead Instantly and stuff like that, we automatically saw an increase in our deliverability when we were running inbox placement tests through EmailGuard when we were using Email Bison. So that's what I recommend. It is more expensive. Is it better? Yes. Is it worth it? Of course. Right. So that's what we use. That's what I recommend everyone use. Domains, you can get them from anywhere, but we use Porkbun. And then email accounts, we get Google Workspace, US-based, verified, enterprise-level accounts. We use a reseller, which I can link in the description that you can check out. And it's super easy. You don't have to set up any DNS records, any DKIM records, anything like that. You just give them the domain information, you give them your email boosting information, and then from there, they set it up. It's cheaper and it's more efficient. You don't have to do any work, and it's great support. Now, I want to be clear, like, just because this is our current setup doesn't mean that this will be our setup in like 6 months. We are constantly testing out new software, because if there's something better than what we're doing right now, we want to be on there, right? Obviously, if it makes sense financially, and obviously, like, if there's no operational bottlenecks. So we're always testing new components and making sure we're not leaving anything on the table. But this is right now the most optimal setup that you can get started with today. And in a few weeks, you'll already be sending cold emails. Next is the lead lists. So you have 2 options when sourcing the final decision maker contact information for cold email. That's really what the goal is. We don't want to like contact like info at or, support at emails. We want to contact the specific decision maker's email to get right in front of them. So there's really 2 options. Number 1, you can go and look at external data. So if there's like a big directory within your industry, like Store Leads is for e-commerce, at G2 you can get software and service-based companies. Product Hunt is like early stage startups. So there's a lot of industry-specific databases. If you have those, definitely leverage them, right? You can get your external data here. After that, you take all the websites or the company names and you put it into an Apollo search query, right? You input those domains from the external data, right? That's very specific because it's literally like directly who you're looking to get in touch with. So you don't have to mess with like all the Apollo like filters to build a list from scratch. And you use filters just to like get like very basic things like the company size, the company location, stuff like that, like what the job titles you want, right? But all the filtering is mostly done in the external database for this, right? Because you're getting it from an industry-specific database. So that's that. And then after that, you use third-party Apollo scraper to export the leads into a CSV file, which I'll also link in the description because we sometimes change the one that we use. And you use an SMTP verification software to ensure emails are valid. Now, this is very important and sometimes overlooked, where it's so simple. I don't understand why people don't do it, where you use Million Verifier or like Never Bounce or something like that, and basically it checks, is the email valid or is the email old, right? If you send an email to an old email, it's going to bounce, right? And that's what it really means. Like the bounce rate, you probably heard of that before. You don't want that, right? That's a big no-no. So basically with an SMTP email verification tool, you're able to only send to the good emails and not send to the bad emails, right? So it's very simple. It's not expensive. It doesn't take a long time. Just use it. I'll link Million Verifier in the description. Next is option 2. Option 2, you basically skip this part of external data and you go and you just build an Apollo search query right away. So for example, if you want to build a list of lawyers, right? And there's no big law directory or database. You're able to go into Apollo, find out the specific keywords, industries, and job titles of the people that you want to get in touch with and build a list directly in there. And then you just follow the same step as here, right? So you go to Apollo search query, export and verify, use the third-party exporter, blah, blah. It's the same thing, right? So the difference between this is, are you using external database and taking that into Apollo to find the decision maker contact info, or are you just finding the filters and the contact info in Apollo directly and then exporting? Those are two very broad different options that you have. As you notice, both of them include Apollo. So that's that. Now, one thing to note also, I forgot to mention, is for this, if you're using a third-party exporter, which you should be, you don't need to pay for Apollo, you just pay for the exporter. Unless you want the premium features, but also some of the exporters don't support those. So that's that. Personalization, once the lead list is verified, built, and like basically exported and verified, you're able to use and leverage Clay workflows to make the emails more relevant and personalized. Like I was saying, you are able to make personalization at scale happen with Clay. So instead of picking between high volume or high personalization, you're able to do both. Now, there are tons of workflows that you can use, pre-built ones that are available publicly, ones that are made in Clay already, but we stick to the ones that actually push the needle and aren't just like vanity workflows where like it's like filler personalization. We're like, oh, like, hey, I saw you went to this school and this town, like I love the pizza place there, or something like that. Like you will get those emails where like it's filler personalization and you could tell that like it's not real, right? So what we recommend using is like AI snippets, where with AI snippets, you don't give AI the ability to just create a whole sentence on its own. You give it a very specific question about a person or about a company. So instead of saying, make a personalized first line about this person, you're able to ask for a specific product name, right? Or a specific industry that they're in, or like the specific e-commerce niche that they're in. And that's what makes it more interesting, because instead of basically flaunting that you personalized your email and doing it too much, you're able to tame it down and make it actually seem as if like you wrote that email. So instead of like saying like some weird stuff like, hey, I saw you went to this school in this town and graduated in this year, you're able to say, hey, I saw your Nike Trailblazer sweater on the website, love the design and stuff like that. And you're able to make it more human-like instead of just adding too much personalization, which is what we call filler personalization. So this is a tech stack. Now, this doesn't include every single software, but this includes the main ones. So external databases, you got StoreLeads for e-commerce, G2 for service-based businesses, software companies, Google My Business for local businesses, built with if you want to check out the specific technologies that companies are using. Clutch, Yellow Pages, Agency Vista, Good Firms, Product Hunt, Crunchbase is good for like recently funded companies. A whole range, and obviously like there's industry specific, even more like niche ones that you can check out as well, depending on what industry you're in. Now, decision maker contact information. I mentioned Apollo here, but you're also able to, like, for example, if you have a small total addressable market or amount of people that you can target, you can use only Apollo, but you can also go to other data sources after Apollo. So what that is called is waterfall enrichment. And basically, when you give Apollo a link and you build a list and everything like that and you export it, you're not going to get all of the emails. Now, obviously, those people have emails. Apollo or the exporter just couldn't get them. So then you can go to Find Email, Datagma, Prospeo, Drop Contact, and many others, and find the email there, right? And then you not only maximize your total addressable market and have more people to contact, but those people that are being contacted later down the line from different data sources are in a way more valuable, because not all people that are just running it from Apollo and Apollo only are going to have it, right? So those people are getting less emails the more down the line you get. All right, so that's waterfall enrichment. There's a separate video on that if you'd like, but definitely I recommend using it, especially if you have a small total addressable market. So next are the additional tools. Like I mentioned, clay.com is huge in personalization. If you want to export, this is the one that we used to use. We still use it sometimes. It's called Export Apollo, and Million Verifiers, the SMTP verifier. Now, next are the cold email scripts. So based on the information and angles that you use to build out your lead lists, We now generate the messaging part of the campaign, which is very, very important. But sometimes people overcomplicate it way too much. And after crafting hundreds of campaigns to see what works and what doesn't, we created the thesis of 3. For a cold email to be predictably well written and effective, it needs to contain 3 characteristics. Number 1, it has to be direct. So we keep our email scripts under 75 words and they don't include any filler words. Number 2 is relevant. It has to be relevant. We all know the saying that if you try to sell to everyone, you're gonna end up selling to no one. So we have to talk to leads on an individual level. Next is being value-based. Now this is the hardest part because solving someone's problem is always the hardest part, right? That's what you actually get paid for. So you need to be value-based and solve specific problems for specific people and talk to them and make sure that they understand that you know how to fix their pain. So the goal of the cold email is very simple. It's just to convey the company level offer or the campaign level offer, which is basically a lead magnet or some sort of offering like that, to the lead and invoke some sort of interest or attention from them. That's it, right? That's literally the whole goal of the email. Now, common mistakes that people make that you have to stay clear of is you can't be over 75 words. Right? It's very rare that we'll go over 75 words. And if we do, it's most likely because we're just testing something. You don't want to include fluff words. You don't want to include spam triggering words. So you could just test that with a normal spam tester online. All of them are pretty good. You don't want to not get to the point, right? You want to just be direct and tell them what you want. And you don't want to talk too much about yourself, about your company, about your features, about how you're so good. Make it more about them. And you don't want to not split test your angles and your campaign level offers. This is a big mistake that people make where they'll launch like one single campaign in the beginning and they don't know if it'll work, but they won't split test against other things, right? You need to have data on, okay, we offered a free ad creative. Okay, we offered a free video. We offered a document. Which one of them performed the best, right? You need to be testing those things to know which one is the best, right? And if you only, for example, pitch the document, you won't ever know how the other 2 would perform. All right, so you need to be testing things. And before I move on from the cold email scripts, we'll go over, like I mentioned in the beginning, our best performing scripts. There's also another separate video on that on the rest of the channel. Also, this seems like a good place to put this in the video, but if you're looking for us to just run this whole cold email system for you, then let us know, book a call in the description, and we'll talk then how you can help. But if you are finding this video valuable, I'm very glad, and we'll go back to the video now. So next is lead management. So the goal of lead management is to turn an interested response from a lead into a booked sales call. That's the only goal. So it is much easier to convert a hot lead into a sales call compared to one that has turned cold again, right, after they've been hot. So the 2 points of contact that we want to have with the prospect, at a bare minimum, you need the email conversation thread, right? That's the bare minimum. Obviously, if you're emailing them, you're going to have that. The next part is the mobile phone number. So that you can get through using something like Better Contact or just other databases like Apollo, which is also pretty simple. And basically, instead of just emailing them constantly, you can also give them a call and text them. So that kind of opens up your multi-channel approach and allows you to do that. Also, one thing that's not mentioned here is you can LinkedIn them. Like you can connect with them on LinkedIn, like their posts, comment on their posts, send them messages there, stuff like that. So the process is pretty simple. The moment that the person responds with some sort of positive sentiment, positive interest, we call them within 5 minutes, or their mobile phone number, their mobile, like their iPhone, their stuff like that, not their company number, right? There is a difference because we don't want to be talking to gatekeepers. We want to be talking to them and only them. Then we double dial if they don't pick up. So if they don't pick up the first time or if they hang up or like if they like silence the call, double dial them, respond to their email if they don't pick up to any of that, and then we text them if they don't respond. A lot of the calls are booked here within 5 minutes because people are top of mind. People know that they still responded to you, right? They're not, you're not just like a random person that they forgot about. They still have you sort of top of mind. Then after that, we follow up every 2 days for a whole month until they either say, yes, I'm interested, let's get on a call, or if they say, I'm not interested. The moment that they say they're not interested, they will never get an email again unless we run a reactivation campaign in a few months. So that's that. Why is lead response time so important? So people will like ask me like, okay, like 5 minutes, like, is it actually 5 minutes? Like, is it really important? Is there a big difference between 5 minutes and 30 minutes? And the answer is yes. So there was a study done. This isn't even my data. This is a data from a real study from Dr. James Oldroyd in collaboration with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, so MIT. And basically, you could check out the link here. Responding within 5 minutes, the leads are 100 times more likely to convert into a call rather than if you respond within 30 minutes. Right, so that 25-minute gap makes the world of a difference. You're losing tons of money if you're not responding within 5 minutes. And that's why the system here is very important and why a lot of people neglect it. That's what I recommend you do. Obviously, you can only focus on this once you actually get positive responses from the first 3 parts. Once you do get a decent amount of positive responses and they're coming inconsistently, you definitely have to focus on it. And then there's other statistics as well. The next part are email script templates and examples. So I also made a video about this, but you can check it out here, where there's 5 email scripts that work almost every single time. Obviously, it depends on how good your offer is, how good your overall business is, and if there's a need for it, and how good the rest of the campaigns are. But email script 1 goes like this. And by the way, before I read this, if you're just going to straight up copy this, know for a fact that it will get worn out, if not already. And it's always better to come up with something on your own that maybe you don't know for a fact will work, but once you do find that message market fit, it's going to rip for you. So make sure you don't just copy this word for word, because the thinking behind it is what works, not the exact words. So the thesis behind giving quantifiable results, unique mechanisms, stuff like that, case studies, that is what works. This is just the packaging of it. All right, so there's different ways to package this as well. Right, just keep that in mind. So subject line, service, your service for company type. Right, so these are things, again, you would have to get this with Clay or company type. Right, so instead of saying service for software companies, right, so ads for software companies, you can be even more specific and use Clay to say ads for website builders, right, or ads for voice AI, or something like that. You can do that as well and make it a lot more relevant. So the body would be first name. Not sure if you're doing this already, but we have a way to get quantifiable result using unique mechanism for your company type. We just did this for case study company and it generated case study results for them. Got time this week to learn about it. Right, so very simple, to the point, and it includes a few main things: the results, the unique mechanism, so how you're going to do it, and the case study. Right, this is huge. So the social proof. An example of this would be, not sure if you're doing this already, but we have a way to get you into a Forbes publication within 3 months using our PR ROI strategy. We just did it for Alex Ramosi from acquisition.com after they've been trying to do it on their own for years. Got time this week to learn more about it. So it's very simple. It's very relevant if they're looking to get into Forbes or overall grow their PR, and it has this result, which is really what carries the email. All right, so that's the first one. The second one, this one doesn't have a subject line. That's besides the point. So first name, we helped case study client get case study result using a unique mechanism. Can I send you a video explaining how it would work for company name? Very, very simple. And you'll notice none of these email scripts are super long or detailed or talking about the features, anything like that. It's all about the result, social proof, and how can I help you. So an example of this would be, Robert, we helped Simple Syrup increase their email marketing revenue by 30%, which resulted in over $450,000 in new sales using our email marketing strategy. Can I send you a video explaining how it would work for LaCroix? So you'll notice that this unique mechanism doesn't have some crazy name. Sometimes for our emails, we'll just say using cold email for our outreach. For this one, it just said email marketing strategy. It doesn't have to be crazy, complex, or flashy. You just have to be upfront and direct with them. So that's that. Email script 3, subject line, still struggling with pain point, question mark. And then the body would be first name, tired of pain point, question mark. I made a system that solves pain point and generates quantifiable result. Got 15 minutes to learn more this week, question mark. So you can kind of see, once it's broken down on a very simple level, you can understand why this would work, right? You just have to be able to get in front of the right person and say the right thing. So if they are genuinely tired of pain point and they see the second line, I made a system that solves that exact pain point and generates this amount of money or saves this amount of time, it's going to work, right? You will get a response. So Michael, tired of spending hours upon hours recruiting reliable UGC creators for Zorka Creatives, question mark. I made a platform that allows you to access over 100,000 vetted influencers who are ready to make content within 15 minutes and you only pay for each influencer you end up using. Got 15 minutes to learn more about it this week. So you notice in the red here, I added something new that I didn't mention before. So now we'll move on to the cold email scripts section of the crash course. So based on the information and angles used to build out the lead list, which we talked about in the previous step, we now generate the messaging part of the campaign. After crafting hundreds of campaigns and seeing what works and also, more importantly, what doesn't work, we crafted the thesis of 3, which basically what that is for a cold email to be predictably well written and effective, it needs to have 3 main characteristics. If it doesn't have even one of them, it's not going to work. I guarantee you. Number 1, it has to be direct. All right, so we keep our cold email scripts under 75 words with no filler words at all. Number 2, we keep them relevant. All right, now this may seem like a no-brainer, but if you try to sell to everyone, you're going to end up selling to nobody. So we have to talk to leads on an individual level to make them feel understood. And next part, which is one of the harder parts, is value, right? Being a value-based within your email. And this one, I say that it's the hardest one because obviously, like, the hardest part of being valuable and getting paid is solving some sort of problem. If you solve the problem, you're going to get paid, but that's where the hard part comes in. So solving problems for a specific demographic of decision makers. If you have all 3 of these, I guarantee you your cold email script will work. I guarantee you. Now, the goal of the cold email is very simple, and that's to convey the company or the campaign level offer, right? So whether it's like just saying, okay, we do this, that's kind of our company level offer, right? We get this amount of leads in this amount of days, or the campaign level offer, which is like the lead magnets, the stuff that you offer. So like documents, videos, free video edits, stuff like that. To the lead, and your main goal is to just get some sort of attention, right? Get a response, ideally a positive response, right? That's that. Very simple. A lot of people overcomplicate cold email scripts. A lot of people make it seem harder than it is, but really what we let happen is the offer shine, right? If the offer is good, you don't need all of the crazy frameworks and stuff like that. Now, there are proven, I guess, templates that you can use that are just very simple that you can plug in your offer, and 9 times out of 10, it will work. But the main goal is to just convey what the company level offers or what the campaign level offers. And common mistakes that we see people committing time and time again, especially beginners or people who like think that they need to make this much more complicated than it actually is. They are over 75 words. So these are all things that you don't want to be doing. You don't want to have it over 75 words, your email script. You don't want to include fluff words, right? So any like extra words that just aren't necessary. You don't want to include spam triggering words, right? This is a very simple fix. You just go on a spam checker online. Most of them are good. And you just make sure that you have 0 of them. Another mistake that people do is not get to the point, right? People don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of attention. Just get to the point, right? Just tell them what you want them to know. Another big thing is talking too much about yourself, about how good you are, about how good your features are. This new technology that we have is great, right? Nobody cares. All that they care about is what is in it for them. And then lastly is not split testing angles of the campaign and different campaign level offers. So obviously, like when we run campaigns, we run a bare minimum of 3 different angles, bare minimum. And then for each different angle, there's a few different campaign level offers. So for example, different campaign level offers for, I don't know, a video editing agency could be a free video edit, a case study of how they scaled this guy from X to Z. I mean, you could just do a campaign level offer of like, are you interested in video editing, right? Something like that. Or are you looking for video editing, right? So you can have those 3 different things, but a lot of people, they'll just go with one. And already, if you're split testing your campaign level offers and your angles, you're already ahead of the curve, but you need to make sure that you actually implement the data that you get back from it after sending a few thousand emails, and then push the most volume towards the email script that got the best results, right? So a lot of people don't really like actually take back the data and implement it again, which is very important because that's why you ran the test in the beginning. Next is lead management. And worth mentioning about the email scripts, I'm going to go over 5 of our top performing email scripts in the next section. So just make sure that you stay so that you actually know how to write and how they kind of look, because it's obviously very important how you deliver the message. Next is lead management. So the only goal of lead management is to turn an interested response from a cold email into a booked sales call. That's really it. That's the only thing that it's there for. It's simply a conversion mechanism. So it's much easier to convert a hot lead, right? Someone who just responded to your email into a sales call compared to a lead that has turned cold again, right? So what we really do with this is we leverage our 2 points of contact with the prospect. Number one, we have the email conversations, right? This is a given. This is how you first got their attention. But also you're able to enrich their mobile phone number, like their iPhone, their Samsung, their flip phone, whatever it is, right? To get their mobile phone number. And if you're able to kind of get them from that point, other than like social media like LinkedIn, which is something that also isn't listed here, but we do, you're able to contact them at an angle where a lot of people aren't contacting them at, which separates you and gets you onto a call with them quicker. So the exact way that this process works and how we run it, let's say you have a hot lead, right? A hot lead just responded to your email. They're like, what's the pricing, right? So let's just say they said that. Within 5 minutes, your goal is to call them on their mobile phone number within 5 minutes. If they don't pick up the first time, you're going to call them again. If they don't respond to those, you're going to email them the response to their question, or, send them a calendar link, book them in. And then if they don't respond or call you back by then, you text them like a normal text, like, hey, this is Alex from Infinite Bookings, just checking in. I know you had a question about pricing. It's hard to say, exact pricing, stuff like that. So you get the point. You're on top of this process here right when they respond, right? This is called speed to lead. You need to have this down pat, because if you wait a whole day, or I've seen people not respond to leads within a week, they're already gone. They're in a different universe. Even within a few hours, you're cutting close. Then after that, every 2 days, we follow up with them. So we call them, email them, and text them again. We do this for a whole month, every 2 days, until they either say, yes, let's get on a call, and they book that call in, or they say, look, man, to be honest, I'm not really interested. And then you can still kind of see like why they're not interested, right? Especially if they're on call, it's much easier to handle that objection. So you need to be on top of converting positive responses into booked calls. That's basically it. The better systems you can build out for this, the more positive responses you can turn into booked calls, which is really the whole point of this. Now, it's worth mentioning that like you should only really worry about doing this once you get positive responses from the first 3, right? If you're not getting any positive responses at all, then lead management is not a problem, right? The problem is either your email infrastructure, your lead list, or your email scripts, or your offer. That's that. Some data to back this up. So why is lead response time so important? So there was a study done with Dr. James Oldroyd, which is like this lead gen guy, and it was in collaboration with MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, huge school, you probably know it. And really what it came down to, you could check out the full like data and like report in this link here. Basically, it came down to this. Responding within 5 minutes, leads are 100 times more likely to convert into a call rather than if you're responding within 30 minutes, right? So that 25-minute gap makes the world of a difference. Literally 100 times difference. So that's how important this is. You need to be responding to people quickly within 5 minutes, if not even quicker. Then there's more data here as well. That's that. Let's go through some email script templates, because obviously you can have the best offer, but if it's not written in the right way, and people aren't going to read the whole thing, they're not going to buy. So let's look through these email scripts. These are directly from the video where we go through the top 5 best performing scripts of last year, 2024. So some of you may have seen them already, some of you may have not. And number 1 is a very simple one, right? So the subject line is service for company type. So the body of this would be first name. Not sure if you're doing this already, but we have a way to get quantifiable results using unique mechanism for your company type. We just did it for case study company, and it generated case study results for them. Do you have time this week to learn about it? So how this would like sound if you were actually like to send this email off to a lead, it would be, Frank, not sure if you're doing this already, but we have a way to get you into a Forbes publication within 3 months using our PR ROI strategy. We just did it for Alex Hormozi from acquisition.com after they've been trying to do it on their own for years. Got time this week to learn more about it, right? So this is just an example. Obviously, like we didn't do this, like this is an example just so that's clear, but like you can kind of see how this can be interesting to people, right? Especially if someone knows and values Alex Hormozi, that's even crazier. But just the offer itself is really good. Now, if you wanted to make this even stronger, this is more of an offer thing, but you can do like or you don't pay, or like some sort of guarantee, but that's really more of an offer thing, not like an email script thing. So that's the first example, right? Very simple, to the point, no fluff. There's no need for that, right? Just keep it simple. Email script 2, there's no subject line here, but that's fine. So this one would be first name. We helped case study client get case study result using our unique mechanism. Can I send a video explaining how it would work for company name? So as you look through more of these scripts, you can understand why someone who is looking for that particular service or is in the market for it would respond to it. Example, Robert, we helped Simple Syrup increase their email marketing revenue by 30%, which resulted in over 450,000 in new sales using our email marketing strategy. Can I send a video explaining how it would work for LaCroix? So simple, 2 sentences, literally. And really the main thing here is that this unique mechanism, it doesn't have to be like a crazy name. It's just like, how are you doing it, right? Are you doing it through cold email? Obviously, like if you do have a special name or a special way of doing your stuff, then include that, right? That's definitely something you should include. But most of the time, like if you're saying cold email, video editing, email marketing, right? Paid ads, like you don't have to create some sort of crazy name for it. That's not what a unique mechanism is. A unique mechanism is something that you actually do differently and that makes your offer unique. So it has the social proof, it has, you know, the call to action here. Next are email script 3. These are one of my favorites actually. Subject line, still struggling with pain point, right? So this includes a little bit of market research. Obviously, like surface level, you just write a script, but there's a lot of market research that goes into actually writing proper email scripts that resonate with this audience. So still struggling with pain point. First name, tired of, I made a system that solves pain point and generates quantifiable result. 15 minutes this week to learn more about it. Then you have your call to action. So an example of this would be, hey Michael, tired of spending hours upon hours recruiting reliable UGC creators for Zorka Creatives. I made a platform that allows you to access over 100,000 vetted influencers who are ready to make content within 15 minutes, and you only pay each influencer you end up using, right? Got 15 minutes to learn more about it this week. So as you can see, I did something extra with this where I added a risk reversal. Now a risk reversal, or like a risk minimizer, is something that cold traffic loves, where if you don't get that result, you don't pay. Or basically, like the name suggests, is you minimize the risk. So you make it more appealing to the cold traffic people who don't necessarily trust you. They don't know you. You're a stranger on the internet, emailing them, asking for thousands of dollars. This will significantly increase your rates all across. Your response rate, your positive response rate, your meeting booked rate, your close rate, it will increase every single rate if you have a risk reversal. Now, you can see how if someone is having this problem, they will respond to it. So it's just very, very simple, no fluff. You can see there's literally no AI fluff in it. Number 4, subject line, quantifiable result for company name. And one thing I didn't mention is when you're launching campaigns, I don't recommend you just do one single subject line, right? How we do it is we have a minimum of 5 to 6 subject lines in each, and we just syntax it and make sure that each email gets a different variant, because obviously that also messes with deliverability if you send the same exact thing over and over and over. And also you can see which one's working best. If you could, and the body is, if I could show you how to get quantifiable result within specific time frame using unique mechanism, would that be worth a quick chat? Literally 1 sentence, right? This is our second most performing, and then email 5 is our top performing last year. An example of this would be, if I could show you how to get in touch with marketing managers at e-commerce brands within 90 days using outbound marketing plus AI, would that be worth a quick chat? This is the same exact cold email, word for word, that we sent to thousands of e-com marketing agencies. And it worked, right? It's so simple because it's just a question. Would that be worth a quick chat? Obviously, they want to do this. We even had a risk reversal in here as well. So you can see how easy it is to say yes to this if you are the right person for the service. That's that. And an email 5. I just made a post about this one also, where it's literally first name. Can I send you a lead magnet? In 2025, with cold email, the more that you give to people, the more you're able to ask for and the more you will get. So us being able to send over a few thousand free leads, right? A fully custom email scripts, a full like audit, everything like this, stuff that people pay hundreds of dollars for, we send for free, and we have social proof here in the PS bar. It's a no-brainer, right? So that's kind of the level of like simplicity I'm talking about. And then the subject line is just lead magnet for first name. You just say yes, you just respond yes, okay? And then you get on a call and that's it. So this is our top performing one. Mark, can I send you a lead list of 1,000 recruitment managers at recently funded tech? Who doesn't want that, right? If you're looking to get in touch with recently funded tech companies, it's a no-brainer decision. And then PS, we just helped our client close a 100K plus deal using this list building strategy. He's also in the game of company purpose, right? So you can obviously like modify this part, but like the main thing here is like, we helped our client close a 100K plus deal using this exact strategy. Why is it not going to work for you? That's email scripts. Hopefully that helps you out. Obviously, like, you can use these frameworks. You can use them. You will see results with them. Make sure that you fully customize it to exactly what you do and you take out all of the potential, right? So you give your best offer, you let your good offer shine. And if in case that you're not seeing the best results, keep optimizing it and possibly add a risk reversal, right? It's one of the easiest ways to boost conversions. Now, I'm not going to get too much into like offer building and offer structures here and how to make them more effective, because this is purely cold email stuff, but that's kind of how we run email scripts. So I'm not sure if that's like exactly what you expected, but this is our top performing script. So take them if you want. Common sources of data, stuff like that. There's 3 separate sections I'm going to go over: software companies, agencies, and local businesses, and e-commerce. So for software companies, there's a lot that are similar to the agency ones, but the main ones here are G2. So it's a software review platform, and there's a bunch of software companies on there. Product Hunt is for early stage startups, new tech products. Crunchbase, recently funded startups, mostly. Capterra is very similar to G2. It's a comparison and review platform. BetaList is early stage startups, so similar to Product Hunt. There's around 20,000 here, so it's not that many. BuiltWith is a website technology tracker, so you can see if people have a Facebook pixel installed, if they're using Klaviyo, if they're using XYZ on their website, so you can see that. GetLotka is a SaaS benchmarks and insights platform. Check out all these. All these are like specialized in a little bit of like a different like niche, each of them. So check which one is going to work best for you. There's also a lot of other ones. So like if you're going after like a more specific software type of company, use Claude, use ChatGPT, and do a little bit of research, because these aren't all data sources that are possible, right? These are the most common ones. So you might find a more industry specific one. So that's software companies. Next is agencies, which I know a lot of you probably are targeting. So Clutch is great, right? Verified agency review. So you could just scrape all that. Good Firms, another review platform for agencies. Agency Vista, again, like a connection platform for agencies and brands to connect, which you can scrape easily. G2, this was also in the software list, and Capterra as well. All right, so they have just separate sections, super easy to navigate. So that's that. Local businesses, you really only have 3 options that are like good and solid and reputable that you can use time and time again. You have Yellow Pages, right, which is a local business directory. Google My Business, you know what that is. Outscraper, and this basically, what Outscraper does is you can scrape all of it. So like the data extraction. So Outscraper isn't like a data source in itself. It just helps you extract from these, right? So use that as you wish if you're targeting local businesses. Next is e-commerce. So there's really only 2 viable options I would recommend. Both are basically the same. They have a bit of different like companies and filters and stuff like that. I personally prefer Store Leads, but BrandNav is also perfect if you have access to that already or want to use that. That's also fine. So I know for a fact Store Leads has over 13 million stores on there, which is a lot. So basically all that you would do is export the Store Leads list or the report and take the domains, put it through Apollo and stuff like that. And you would do that for all of these. So all of these companies or all of these sources are going to give you the domains, so that like the websites. After that, it's your job to take them into Apollo and find the decision maker contact information and add any job title filters and find the specific people at those companies that you got from these sources. And then you can export it very easily through the third party. So those are the common sources that I recommend you use. Now, frequently asked questions that you might see. So how long does it time to results? So usually you can start seeing results like the first day. Realistically, like if you send emails, theoretically you can see results, but realistically, I recommend you come in with the mindset that the first month you're not going to see any results. Unless you've already found your message market fit and you do all your research perfectly the first time, you're not going to see results the first month. The second month is when you should start seeing pretty consistent results, when you have consistent volume, right? Everything is warmed up, like I was saying in the infrastructure section. Everything is warmed up. It may be a bit longer, it may be a bit shorter. Obviously, it depends on like how quickly you find the message market fit, how exactly you follow this tutorial, and obviously how good your deliverability is. If you're not using spam words, if you're using proper spin tags, stuff like that. Will cold outreach work for my company? A very common question and a very interesting one. The true answer and the honest answer is if your company has product market fit and people are interested in your product and service, you will see results. 100%. Guaranteed. People want your service. If you get in front of them, they're going to want to buy. If you do not have product market fit, No marketing channel on this world is going to help you. Not running a magic paid ads funnel, not running a magic cold email script or some magic marketing channel. Nothing is going to help you because people don't want what you're selling. So this question, it's will marketing work for my company? If you don't have product market fit, nothing is going to work. And you know for a fact people want what you're offering and your offer is cold outreach ready, it's going to work, right? That's what I can guarantee you. Next question is, what is an average reply rate for cold emails? Every company is different. Obviously, every offer, every industry, stuff like that is different. But we aim to see a minimum of 2% reply rate and a 15% positive response rate with cold emails. Theoretically, if you send 1,000 emails, you should see at least 3 positive responses, or you should be contacting around 330 people for 1 interested lead at a bare minimum. All right, so these are benchmark numbers. So that is the entire A to Z blueprint, crash course, whatever you want to call it, for cold email. There are other videos on this channel that probably will be beneficial if you're looking at running cold email or you still don't know if cold email is the right option for you. So feel free to check them out on this channel. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel. And like I said in the video before, if you are looking for experts to help you run cold email, people who do this day in and day out, and you don't really want to have too much involvement on the technical side of things, and you just want to show up to the call, schedule a call below. We'll hop on, we'll see what's the best fit for your business, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much for watching to this point, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.